Well, I think you know where this is going. See if you can find yourself on this chart. That's the history of humans on planet Earth. So, not very many of us, 160,000 years ago, get the first Homo sapiens, but then it's only like thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, but not until the last 200 years did we hit that hockey stick growth curve and go from millions to billions almost overnight. So, what happened? Well, we solved hard technical problems that kept humans from thriving. How do you feed all these people? Give them jobs, give them homes, eradicate the disease that's killing them off. Did you know 400 million people died of smallpox? 400 million of these people, not those people, right? So, every time faced with a challenge, our job is to invent new technology, bring it into the world to solve that problem. It wasn't government policy, it wasn't religion, it wasn't some charity or an election. Every time, new technology that we invented. But if there's anything all these extra humans are good for, it's making more problems. So, our job, literally our job in this room is to figure out how are we going to invent on that scale. That's the job. So I'm an inventor, which isn't like a real career choice. Anybody here have a business card that says inventor? Yeah, your parents didn't tell you, grow up and be an inventor. But when you're inventing, there's different ways to go about it. I'm going to tell you about my way. My way is I try to collect the output of basic research, of scientific discovery. I try to understand every new discovery I can, and I collect these superpowers. And I collect the output of the scientific community. For me, since I'm a computer hacker, it's a lot about computers. Every new chip, every new algorithm, every new sensor, I try to cram that into my brain. And then on the other side, I try to cram in the problems and ask myself, does this change anything humans have ever done? Can we do it better, faster, cheaper, in a more humane fashion? Right? You also need a garage with crazy hair and a DeLorean. Like, those are the ingredients. But this is where it starts. And without this, you don't get any new technologies. Nobody's ever invented a new technology by reading the directions. Right? You have to do this process before you do that one. Right? And we have a lot of things going on that you can see where we mix that up. We've got companies built on an invention created by an entrepreneur that doesn't move the needle. Might make a good business, might make a lot of money, but there's no new technology there. So we're not getting that multiplier. When you invent a new technology, you get a new variable to add into the equation. That's where your exponents come from, right? We invented this thing. Scientists had figured out a way to manipulate waves, electromagnetic waves, using what they called metamaterials. But they were just like doing party tricks for physicists, hadn't quite figured out anything useful to do. Physicists mostly argued and said, oh yeah, that's going to be useless. But we thought, maybe that's a new superpower for us. So we invented a whole bunch of technologies based on that. This is an antenna. We have them in the roofs of cars. And the antenna can electronically steer a holographic beam. So it tracks satellites. This car drives coast to coast, streaming 4K video, uncompressed, off of satellites, both ways. Using the same thing, we invented a low-power radar. You can stick it, it's not much bigger than a cell phone. You stick it on a drone, It can see barbed wire fences miles away and do collision avoidance. Get rid of the spinning laser that Google uses and put it in a bumper of a car, right? We invented technology that can do live video like Google Earth, but over the entire planet, live video, instead of just stills. We invented another version of this where we can put it on cell towers. Cell towers, we're all sharing a cell tower right now. That's why your phone is slow, right? But I can aim spotlight at each user. We can get gigabit wireless to everyone on the planet this way. This is my garage. We basically just bought one of every tool in the world, hired one of every kind of scientist, a few deranged hackers and inventors, and started going after the biggest problems that we could find. Because what we believed was that nobody was funding invention. We looked around and said, okay, well, scientific research gets funded on this end, entrepreneurs get funded on that end. Who's funding inventors? DeLorean sales, right? So I work for Nathan Myhrvold at what's called the Intellectual Ventures Lab. We created funds we call invention capital funds, and we use those to invest in inventing new technologies. So this is what I call the conjoined triangles of tech. And I want to explain to you how that works. At one end, you've got what we call deep tech. Anybody heard of deep tech? That's kind of a new term mostly Europeans are using, I think, to describe the harder stuff. But if you have deep tech at one end, well, what do you call the stuff at the other end? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. What did Uber invent? What new technology comes from Airbnb? If Mark Zuckerberg had never been born, do you think we'd still have something like Facebook? These are not tech companies, okay? These are the logical extension of what you get when you invent new technologies. Internet, wireless data, mobile phones, right? That's where these things really come from. I'm not saying they're bad products. They could be good businesses. They might even be good investments. Who knows? But don't fool yourself, right? At some point, if you don't invent a new technology, you're not getting that multiplier. We invented this thing. We think of it as really deep tech. It's a new type of nuclear reactor. It's powered by nuclear waste. This is a stockpile in Kentucky, 700,000 metric tons of depleted uranium left over from making bombs and reactors. With this one stockpile in our reactors, we can power the entire planet, including growth, for about the next 1,000 years. We don't even need to mine uranium. We can do better, but we got to try. And in a lot of cases, we're actually not trying. See if you can find yourself on this chart. The red part or the blue part, either way. If you're in the bottom 99% in America, you're still in the top 14% globally. That's not so bad. It's like being a lottery winner. I mean, won one lottery by getting to be human, which is pretty awesome. Nothing's coming after you. Won another lottery by being American. I know we have some guests here too. But on your worst day, lost your job, girlfriend left you, iPhone battery is dead. You're still in the top 14%. A lot of people trying to live like they're going to win that third lottery. And at some point, I think what it means is the world kind of overinvested in me. More money was spent on me, more energy was spent on me, more education. So I need to do what I'm uniquely good for, which is probably not, digging coal or delivering pizza. This is Anopheles defensi. She's a female mosquito carrying malaria in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is the most dangerous animal on earth. Not sharks, not snakes, not spiders, not robots. Actually, the person sitting next to you is pretty scary too. Watch out for those guys. Yeah, by the numbers. When you're an inventor, you always try to invent something using lasers because lasers are cool. So we thought, yeah. And then we laughed about it. And then I hired a hacker. 6 weeks later, she's not coming back. Here we vaporized her wing off. It's very satisfying work if you can get it. The rule in the lab is just don't kill anything cute. If it's cute, like bunny rabbits, don't kill it. But mosquitoes, you can kill as many as you want. Not even PETA comes to save them. You could be in Africa your whole career working on malaria, not know about lasers and machine vision, right? Oh, whoops. Subliminal marketing. Okay, here's a game we're going to play. This is the malaria parasite living inside of a red blood cell. Which one is it? You get 20 minutes to find it. It's like finding a marble in a football field. Most countries are lucky to have a single technician that's actually good at this. And then they probably go stir crazy after a couple of years from staring at dots. It's hard. We do 1 billion tests a year that way to find people who have malaria. And it's not enough. With malaria, you have asymptomatic carriers traveling around, spreading it to places you already got rid of it. Malaria is taken right now over half a million lives a year. Most of them are kids under 5 years old, right? This is the low-hanging fruit in global health. We invented this thing. You guys are all getting excited about machine vision, right? Starting a decade ago. Welcome to the club. We started working using machine vision in an automated microscope to find the malaria in the parasite. It's like 7 microns. This is a really hard thing to do. That thing now outperforms the best humans on Earth. We can make a lot more of them, a lot faster than we can train humans, right? We can do better, but we got to try. If you have an iPhone in your pocket, the cost of that thing is equivalent to the global median income. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I got piles of these things, right? Mostly disassembled. What I think it means is that you should buy an iPhone, and you should drive a Tesla too, for that matter. But then understand, the job isn't done just because we made a product for rich people. We're just getting started. The job is, can I go take on a problem I don't have? Can I solve a problem that 1 billion people have? That's harder. It's a lot harder, all right? You got to go there and find the problems. We're kind of running out of problems, right? I don't know what your problems are. My problems are like iPhone battery doesn't last all day, and then relationship problems. Not existential problems, right? I don't have malaria. Here's an example. This woman's packing $25,000 worth of vaccines into a shitty $2 styrofoam cooler. She's going to truck them out into the bush, start injecting kids, and half of these vaccinations are going to fail because they didn't stay cold. No detection for that. We just inject kids anyway. 250,000 kids a year die of something they were vaccinated against. Now, you and I don't have this problem. We have refrigerators. that power's out 4 to 16 hours a day. Most of the places in Africa where we have this problem. So we invented this thing. It's just a kind of a super thermos. Stick vaccines in there, stick it in the sunshine, in the Sahara, come back a couple months later, and your vaccines will still be cold. There's no power cord, can't even plug it in. This is literally the deployment scenario. Thank you. We're lucky, we do all these projects with Bill Gates, so we're using Bill's money to solve people's problems. But I actually think that's great. But this wasn't that hard. I mean, the team working on it did awesome work. Congratulations, guys. But for us, it's pretty easy, comparatively easy. Compared to this guy, I got a whole lab full of geniuses and PhDs and biologists and chemists, and I got everything I need to make something like that. It's comparatively easy for me. But I had to go there. We had to go there. We had to go sit I found out a clinic in Africa is like a tree for some shade with a doctor and this thing under it. Like that's the front lines of vaccination. That's how we eradicated infectious disease. Steering. Anybody ever heard of cypherpunks? I come from this tiny little community of fringe wackos on the internet from the early 90s. And what we believed was that as the internet grew, we would need to design freedom for its users into the protocols. We believed we could embody our values into the protocols of the internet. And specifically, our values were that nobody should get an asymmetric advantage on the network. Right? That means I get the same access as you do. You don't get to decide what I do. And I don't get to decide what you do. And we found in the crypto toolkit the ability to do some of that kind of thing. Privacy is something you don't want the whole world to know. Secrecy is something you don't want anybody to know. Those are different. But it turns out it's real hard to get privacy after the fact. Once something's out, it's hard to take it back. We have to design our values into the protocols. Anybody remember this? I don't know what that guy's running away from. Kind of running away from a walled garden. AOL was a service. Walled garden. And it lost. It was huge. It was massive, actually. And for the day. But TCP/IP won because it wasn't a service. It was a protocol, a decentralized protocol. Nobody could keep you off the internet. All you had to do is find somebody who was connected who would let you connect to them. That's it. Protocol. But then what happened? We got online and ran into a big walled garden. Right? Service. There's a difference between building services and building protocols. And right now, we're living in a world where we chose to join up with a bunch of services, and we're living with the ramifications of that. We figured out that some of our values aren't being upheld by the services. But if we create protocols instead, then everybody can come and bring their own values with them. Cypherpunks have a few success stories. In the 90s, crypto was classified as a munition by the US government, just like nuclear bombs. You couldn't export it. We gave the government a lot of shit, and we won. That's why you have encryption in your web browser. It's controversial, but cypherpunks created the dark web. This is a way for everybody to surf the web anonymously, to get back that freedom. So no one can track you. You can do what you want to do. Different jurisdictions have different ideas about what you should be allowed to do online. We don't think that's how it should be. You should get to decide. That's what Tor browser's for. Cypherpunks created BitTorrent. Some industries really hate BitTorrent, but they couldn't shut it down. You know why? It's a protocol, not a service. Napster was a service. BitTorrent is a protocol. Cypherpunks created Bitcoin, too. This is our hits list. All right? Bitcoin is a protocol. It's a way to make transactions possible where nobody else gets to control your transaction. It's a way to have a currency issued where nobody gets to screw with the value of the currency, unlike every other currency in human history. We can embody our values into the future of the internet, of everything that we do, but we have to build protocols, not just services. So for the entire history of humans, we've had this kind of interesting innovation methodology called biological evolution. That's how you got opposable thumbs and two eyes and that ability to appreciate music, all right? But something happened along the way. You used to just have to die to innovate. Through successive generations of sex and gamma rays, you get variations and mutations, and then with survival of the fittest, you kill off the ones that don't work as well. That's how you got here. It worked really well, right? But then something happened. Once we got to the top of the food chain, once we became the dominant thing in the world, we killed off the very mechanism that got us here. You used to have to die to innovate. Now, you have to innovate or die. The biological evolution that got us here no longer exists. Humans don't evolve that way anymore, really. We have to use our brains. This is an unproven methodology. We don't even know if it's going to work. But we have no choice. We have to use our brains to make good decisions about our future. For almost the entire history, everybody had to work just to keep us going. But at some point, probably with the Industrial Revolution, we got a little more effective, more efficient. And now you kind of got to ask yourself, do we need all these extra humans? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to tell you which ones are extra. Right? And if you want that job, probably you should be the first one to go. Yeah. No. It's actually an amazing and beautiful thing, possibly the most incredible thing humans have ever done. We chose the sanctity of human life. We chose to let everybody live regardless of their fitness, right? I think it's the right choice. It's beautiful and it's amazing. It's not the only choice we could have made, but we've chosen that, right? But it doesn't come without a cost, right? Along the way, we got so efficient that not everybody had to work all the time. You got a little bit of free time. Now, we didn't squander it. We were very resourceful, and we invented the entertainment industry. Books, movies, music, video games, elections, everything that we do to fill our free time, right? But at some point, I think we hit peak entertainment, right? And now, this really important thing is starting to happen. A robot is coming to do a whole bunch of the work that you do. And you kind of got to figure out, well, what is it I'm supposed to be doing here? Watching more Netflix? I mean, I know y'all want to watch more Netflix. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a way of thinking about what humans need to feel fulfilled. Look at the bottom of this pyramid. These are physical needs, the basic stuff you need to be alive. Think about where technology is helping. Breathing, food, warmth. We have technologies for that, heaters. Sex, we have condoms and vibrators. Go a little higher. Employment, health, we have all kinds of technology for health. This is what I call quantity of life issues. These are the kinds of problems that we're trying to solve with technology. And we're really good at it. In fact, we're going to solve all of them. But keep going. Friendship, family, there's no app for that. Where's technology helping? Sexual intimacy? If you're using technology for that, you're probably doing it wrong. Self-esteem, confidence, achievement. In Silicon Valley, I think a lot of times we're a little disingenuous about this. We act like we're going to solve every problem in the world. We're not. These are what I call quality of life issues. And from the front lines of inventing new technology, I'm here to tell you, we don't know what the hell to do about that stuff. I'm not saying technology will never help, but right now, Maslow's highest level is called self-actualization, meaning in life, creativity, problem solving. I don't have any tech for that. And you look around you, people aren't any happier. They've got all kinds of amazing shit. They get new apps on their iPhone. There's unlimited cats available on Instagram, and it's not just cats. People are still hurting. Why is that? These are the happiest people I know. They're orphans in Ethiopia who never heard of overcrowding. This is their classroom. Look at this guy. You know anybody happier than him? I don't. I live here on the West Coast. I got everything I could possibly want and more. But I got to tell you, that kid's got something I don't have. Right? And I got pretty good. He knows exactly where he fits in when he wakes up in the morning. He doesn't know he's doomed on the bottom half of that pyramid, but his sense of community, he's got it. Right? Don't pity these kids. They got something you don't have. We got something to learn from them. Robots can only do what we teach them how to do. And right now, we are terrible role models for robots. Right? Thanks. This is my daughter. She came from that orphanage in Ethiopia. Now, I immediately started raising her with a bunch of American problems. So, for example, we have this robot in our kitchen called Alexa. You guys know Alexa? Yeah. And I noticed the way she talks to Alexa, she's kind of bossy. Alexa, tell me a joke. She talks to Alexa like I talk to her, to be honest. I said, there's going to be a lot more robots coming. You might want to be a little nicer to Alexa. They probably could use some friends. And she actually liked this idea. So she started saying, Alexa, please tell me a joke. Which really confused Alexa because I guess she wasn't trained on data where, people were treating her respectfully. So that didn't work for a while. Look, I never got this one. You probably didn't either, right? There's a lot of work to do. Robots are taking over a lot of it. Even if we don't invent any new technology for the rest of our lives, there's so much work to be done with the amazing powers we have now from machine learning and other things. We can spend the rest of our lives deploying that to solve problems and not be finished. I think there's plenty of jobs. Another way of looking at that first slide I showed, population growth. Humans made about 3 billion jobs in the last 200 years. I think we can make a few more. When a robot takes your job, what I hope is that you will rejoice and help us write that manual. Help us figure out the hard, unsolved problem that computers can't do of how do you take care of humans? How do you solve for the psychological well-being of a human? How do you solve for happiness? Computers can't do that, right? Only we can do that. My daughter's spent most of her, childhood in a public elementary school. She had 30 kids in her class most of the time, one teacher. She's not like the problem kid, so, she kind of falls through the cracks. She comes home bored sometimes. It's heartbreaking, right? From school. All of her teachers have been good, but they're outnumbered. I would trade any of her teachers for a displaced truck driver and a 1-to-1 student-teacher ratio. You don't need a very good teacher if you only have one student, right? These are not technology problems. These are human values problems. We have to decide, what is it we want to do with all these technologies we've created and exact our values into the world? If it all goes to shit and becomes gray goo or robots turn you into paper clips, you don't get to blame the technology. You get to blame humans for doing the wrong thing with the technology. A hammer is a tool. I can build you a home. I can smash your head. Artificial intelligence is no different. It's your job to figure out what to do with the hammer. Thank you.